Hello, this is a video that communicates for Muhammad Ali. In this, I put a link to the video where he hopes that we understand what he was trying to say. And see, we're two sides could be wrong together, and one side could be more right. Not relative, in other words, to the subject. In other words, when he's saying black people have to be under a white flag, and he's trying to bring the conversation to that nature that respects that nature. Like this is back in the day with the television, we all had the same channels, so there was more means to keep to discern where and how. Since before our founders were born, we didn't really have free speech, and the law forced others to be pretended at all locations, areas, and states, and that was sustained so they would keep any individual voice of any kind of nature of independence or unity, even if it has a majority of a body. It would keep them discernible and be able to adapt to that by the crazy torture, extortion, slavery method that our founders left us to communicate about. Muhammad Ali has been more right than anybody that the Constitution is abridged. He hasn't been knowing how to in other words, the nature of debate regarding sides with the flag leaves out the Trinity too, where leaves out where and how it is functional. That there is a distinct identity of hyper-simultaneous that can be used to answer our questions. And we have black pupils, whites of eyes, for example, to know that campuses A through Z was also, as it is actually recorded, being and having been used remotely, functionally, by a breaching method using each modern country and grouped all groupings of humanity then that speak for humanity. It measures them having come through locations, areas, and states, and campuses, and the differences of it. Because this is a use of all location slash as everywhere the human species body is since some ancient times. Control our minds, boxing. I teach us things, but long. So how they got away with this through time? Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There are readings of statutes by their sources, their intelligence community sources, that give them the right to lie about things. And they've been all kinds of ways, even putting fake transcripts and evidences into databases to keep uses of investigations and investigators, and to keep the causes of that blamed on other things, others ourselves. And as additional actual motivations that are also ulterior increasingly from their actual motivations, which is the breaching method uses of all locations. For example, how it designed the suburbs before America's founders were even born for their torture, for their extortion, and for their slavery, for their factory nature slavery, sickly distinctly, as our founders who had to counter extort the other founders who were not Native American, and sickly distinctly from the Native Americans who had to counter extort the other Native Americans who they are our founders too, but they are not a unity, and black is not a unity because we're not going by why we have black pupils, whites of eyes, the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. We're not going by where and how our founders left us to explain and understand why and how they had to leave entrenched. Crazy, the difference between the three branches of government: criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, and pretending other, or the overt criminal enterprises and the private ones we know were never countered properly. Now, since the suburbs were designed for the torture and extortion of our founders and the factory nature slavery of them, the identity theft, fraud, slander against everyone sickly, non-distinctly, sickly distinctly to keep blamed on other things, others ourselves. how sickly non-distinctly, since semi-ancient times, since before modern religions, messengers came. The sciences had already become criminally foreign influenced. The names of the human bodies individually grouped in together, that the difference slash S was four names that record stewardships of it were forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to have to counter things like criminal foreign influences, not knowing how to do it properly, and blamed other things other themselves wrongly as collusions with what caused that. Criminal insidiousness natures, for example, while pretending other, and of positive treatments too. See, this is a method that uses how identity works. See, but everyone had how computers work explained other than how they work. Where and how Americans had roles with inventing things. These were with and through names that were already themselves individuals, groups, all groupings of humanity. They have left out why we are individual, finite, grouped, difference, ages, areas, sexes. So group difference slash S and species volume. It is functional how the hyper invisible is distinct from the invisible but still discernible. It is the reason why there are 7 distinct names for appreciation of a verb. And how there are 1/3/5. It is also grouped. Those are grouped. We appreciate the participle nature, the present participle and the past participle. The present participle is constantly formed by the verbal, as a gerund, which is one of the names too. A gerund is constantly what a present participle is. A past participle could be a gerund or could not. Note that variably it could be it. And this with our appreciation for why naming a gerund distinctly as a verbal. Because language appreciates what we now have re-engineered definition as Boolean logic. Tactical carrier, how that can be defended in physics with syntax, or as nature defended with syntax, and or the identity treatments. So this makes self-valued roles where and how, while people are making subject treatments increasingly used to measure and maintain by the breaching method of every modern country's location, areas, and states, that those subject treatments are identities and identities of relationship to themselves slash as its system, natures, why and how we are individual, group different. I have to go eat something. I just got so hungry. Thank you, people. See hunger, see thirst, see we are system, see black pupils, whites of eyes. But don't leave out how black lawmakers transnational had roles with the shell game, with black and white international law bodies. Forgiveness is to not leave out remote uses of that too. Fake integrity while pretending other. We are a hyper-native system that has been tactically denatured, and nature itself is showing us the only increasing value of indigenous populations. That doesn't mean that their syntax is right. The only increasing value of getting black right is on all of us. There is a constitution unabridged. You want to have a debate about a flag, but then you can't follow mandated law because you guys passed. In other words, when you didn't follow mandated law as adults with the kids, it was also sometimes the kids with the adults. and where it is worse concentrated is differentially too. The forgiveness is because there are not just foreign bodies involved here or there, where and how the all rights to lie that the intelligence community has are they use it where they don't have the right to lie, and or they're valuing that the effects of that per others doing and having done that. We have people offensively incapable of proper descriptions of anything relative to the Constitution unabridged, which is relativity null. So this breaching method measures and maintains what can't defend itself as syntax and or as syntax nature and afford to protract the short words of anyone making convictions proper. Like, for example, the intelligence community recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed that Connecticut news locations' names are involved with wire crime acts and methods with them, with their phones, distinctly from their roles with investigators, planting evidences as collusions at crime scenes, and with uses of where and how all sides in criminal and civil cases, the victims, their advocates, the doctors, everyone, the difference between people next to them, their sources, and the interbranch forging and switching names, and the news at the same time have been planting sequence shifts, illusions, and as collusion / S. Forgiveness is so we could force a quality of fact human nature that reveals this, having been at all locations and inseparable from all kinds of natures of instances. So we have shock and awe. They were shown how they are shown preemptively they need to hide for things to come and put fake motivations. So I do not know the Perone family, and they lied with the exceptions where they made pictures and people see me around them. In other words, and the Kerr family too. They planted evidences with people on all sides of my house and on all sides of their house. They abuse their kids too. And to get everyone is speaking with intelligence as collusions, building off mayors also, and medical family putting fake things in databases at kids' campuses, involved with all sides in cases. Investigators have never stopped being used remotely. That's one of the things witch trials are about, even if they were completely made up. And when that is recorded, when people make opinions about what they're about, and when they speak about the difference of the opinions, the arrays of the difference of opinions, and the exceptions they use to measure and maintain short words with convictions by that proper, not present or sensed and discerned through the body's own. Every really human's body of individual bodies has a body, even if one is in outer space. See, everyone's self-value when we go to outer space because everyone, how the breaching method set up the only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures. More and more is that people are going to self-value roles, needs, and natures with uses of criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, like the words like facts, truth, used for lies, used to hide what came first, used to plant fake motivations, keep them locked in, used to keep out actual value of uses of location / S. There are proofs that on off the state judicial branch offices and or the equivalent in the states involved with the president's treatments and legal topics and opinions A through Z regarding it. They have crime methods where they have real rights to lie and put fake news. But they don't have the right to pretend that's what they think someone's talking about. They don't have to, so some things I wrote clear and some things I wrote unclear because they are dishonest about when people speak clear and about when they speak unclear. They also attach people to fake behavior when they're at locations involved with this. A whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital since I was a kid have roles with drugs and medicines crimes from other parts of areas and with identity thefts and frauds who have roles with wire crimes acts and methods and the names on all sides of criminal and civil cases involved with falsified police reports and attaching me to fake conversations with police forms and ties to them and natures of ties to them in their sources, like Mendez police and ones with the name Domain make fake exceptions. In other words, real fast. They can't. They say things they can't go back and be honest about because they use prejudice against themselves and abuses against themselves as religious groups and as counters to them who are collusions also with military, not legitimately. They are with the judges and prosecutors' families on and off the campuses, planting federal evidences, crimes, and methods of them. He said, she said, where they influence the professors and their family members and their neighbors, everyone's next to everyone. This is how they control sense and sensibilities, keeping other things, others, or selves blamed for what caused slavery, other than what our founders communicated that was about. It was we were supposed to address honestly, telling no lies about the torture and extortion of George Washington. And now that would have brought up how everyone was fact cheap in nature, enslaved, sickly, distinctly. That means that our potentials were sickly enslaved. So that means our value nature systems, we're supposed to address how Russian slavery method and tactical delusions raw. We're supposed to address the tactical delusions of the reason experts, the logic experts, the identity experts. They have tactical delusions / hyper tactical because the country's also grouped to have roles with this. The mental health there are proofs that there are doctors of psychiatry at, I don't know for a fact, at Palestine hospitals, for example, who are have badges also, and ones that work with them, and at Israeli hospitals, because these countries and their differences when they speak, they're involved over here getting in the way of people with mandated law, little fake sides, A through Z, and then you change what we say, and then you have roles with it with the news, changing what's on Facebook. WFSB recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they have collusions with child offenders, sexual and medical, on off the campuses, and with a Joshua Julian involved with them with predicate acts on my street, with names also who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed him involved with uses of roles with home break-ins through time connected and timed instances include collusions, uses of it as untimely deaths. Timed uses of the same houses. They use crime methods to have people not be able to describe things properly as people involved with agencies that show, describe a crime scene. And they're all fake because they have communications, racketeering, worse than war crimes here involved. Black pupils. Here! We need to get them onto paper in one name and sequence here. They don't have the they're not following mandated law into branch. All we have to do get them on paper with the principal child abuser's confessions. They also hid this by fabricating evidences and by changing other evidences. WTNH has roles with FBI, a whole bunch of people with the name. Fred Grisey, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He's involved with police chiefs, intercities, and their family members, and other foreign and domestic intelligence at 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike. Now, these are people involved with the extended family members of judges that are also involved with predicate act sequence shifts and faked when I know them on my street and rolls with them with names of predicate acts before that too. For after as some of the tricks that people involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants were involved with. So these are also Wethersfield police forging and switching names and then not giving their whole names. And on police reports where they also use confessions for their roles with extortion. acts and methods of it. So Wethersfield police have Mendez families, and they have other school resource office families, and teachers who are intelligence community associated with names like Joshua Julian, and with the name Cololo with Wethersfield Police, and a police chief Cintron involved with a Jessica Cintron and a Reno Mazzucato, per John Maiano, also involved with people with the name Demoro with sequence shifts. I never saw them together in my life, Demoro and John Maiano. And there are neighbors of Demoro family involved with foreign and domestic military on Valley Crest and on Morgan Circle, with intelligence community from CCSU increasingly leaking things tied to their roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, instances, fake motivations planting all along Walcott Hill and Route 175. Walcott Hill is one of the conjunctions to them. There is also a Chet Casper, and I don't know his sister's name. I never had a class with him. He's one of the people involved with the FBI and with the courts, with people with in my area planting evidences on off Central Connecticut State University and CCSU, Central Connecticut State University, and Trinity College has a officer who uses the name Darth Vader over the phone, involved with wire crimes with Wethersfield Police and the FBI, wire crime methods. They also, Wethersfield Police attached me to live fake conversations when I was a kid, and now as an adult, changed communication, fake communications. You know, I never had a verbal conversation in my life written with a police chief or people with the name Dillon, like Kevin Dillon, Anna Dillon. We use the name Annie Dillon. She's involved with men and women of the intelligence community who are trained on and off of Central Connecticut State University through time, who have roles with names next to the campuses, who have roles with investigators being and having been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw, interstates, and foreign, criminally foreign influence, sequence shifts, fake motivations planting. So male and females use the name Bobby involved with this. It has something to do with their roles with shipping locations and fire campuses, families, and investigators on Elm Street, at the corner of Elm Street and Rocky Hill. Also sequence shifts and motivations planting, where and how it was years before the Mazzucato family was there. And in other words, this is planting evidences at locations where they go before courts that force, trick, hurt, and persuade. Finite details left out, simultaneous values. Simultaneously, when we hear people speaking about black and white, no matter who we are, we know that it is a course that is hyper native pure, whether you realize it or not. And if you're dishonest about this, their nature shows there is a function by emotions. If they are not, if the person is describing their own emotions or other people's emotions, to leave out the smallest finite detail, but per its system. In other words, including what came first. That's why part of how it shows us to keep it functional, how the hyper invisible, but still discernible, has to be used. You have to keep people contemplation with questions too, because they have the interbranch never stopped having collusion at all crime scene /S, at the hyper crime scene /S, that which had been sustained before our founders were born, that which designed the scale and nature of the homes in Wethersfield, tactically denatured, while they made more and more the only means to cause positive value nature progression is action nature. If to be self-valued roles with uses of the science's names, uses of correlations, finite details, and simultaneous details ignored. Fake motivations planting is also involved with warehouses, and they're not legitimately screening their roles with all these different countries with the Kolvinskis family and his neighbors. There's a I don't know a police chief now, but he lives near people, so I don't know all their names. And the only reason I know the Justin Kolvinskis name, he was one of the ones that sequentially were brought into confessions of a Tim O'Brien and of a Ray Claw, who increasingly have different natures of and methods of wire crime roles since they were kids, with judges and prosecutors and overt criminal enterprises and private ones involved, with timed uses of corners of streets and conversations with their teachers, criminally foreign influence. Criminally foreign influence, identity theft, fraud, slander, uses of my name, and fake motivations, again, with the judges and their extended family members, on and off Connecticut boxing gyms. There are people with the name Delaferro who have been pretending to know me since I was a kid. They make fake exceptions. They have something to do with the World Trade Center attack and probation, probate court judges involved with elderly homes, VA homes, and with Hartford Hospital, involved also with their extended family members, like the Delafair family, and with the Weathersfield Police and houses along Two Rod Highway and Hangdog Lane, where they affected confessions to me from strangers of family members that worked with the campuses and worked with them through years, who have roles with predicate acts as victims slash hyper victims, then as roles with World Trade Center attack ones. This is where and how they have personal roles with the investigators, as everyone does. I mean, not me. But in other words, everyone has to speak for the law. That's what you speak about when you speak. The science is sharing identity. So if you guys are speaking for reason, fake. You're preventing reasons means to you correlation. You guys are forcing, pretending, passion and emotions. That you can't pretend on you can't pretend what you think are the motivations of others only, especially when everyone's using the word only, certain type of victim slash hyper victim. But if you treat it like that, which is also relative to the breaching method, also recorded, replaced. How are you gonna more? What would motivate someone to replace what our founders communicated to us to communicate for themselves? How about the breaching, torture, extortion method entrenched? The fact cheating nature slavery method that we're supposed to address. Why then? How they had to leave that entrenched? It made them have the means to be able to counter extort our other founders, and that was also as our Native Americans. It was the Native Americans against Native Americans, not to be against Native Americans. Divide and conquer it was used to keep blame on other things, others ourselves, or to measure and maintain that not going down, not being perpetrated, self-valued roles with it against yourselves. Our founders told us to have no respect for the identities of the branches of government, the overt criminal enterprises, and the private ones. Their difference for their difference, many ways. All exceptions, exception nature. We're supposed to treat different and other also. Or if I made mistakes, of course you made mistakes. You guys have collusions against the kids of New York City, sickly distinctly from the kids of Weathersfield, sickly distinctly from the kids of Hartford. And the difference of that was shown to them needs to hide that. So Robert Rodriguez and is one of the ones also involved with shopping centers and with locations involved with the probation officers and with the probate judges involved with drugs and medicines, crimes, identity thefts and fraud, slanders, federal evidence, as roles with used remotely, criminally foreign influence investigators on and off shopping centers and malls and boxing gyms and with people on and off Central Connecticut State University involved with the judges, family members, and Trinity College. They planted evidences with this guy with the name Darth Vader. When the police forms on and off the campus, switching names, putting fake motivations, hiding what came first, as collusions, increasingly with people on my street at the time who had roles of untimely death at Trinity College, and as people involved with World Trade Center predicate acts, including with the investigators of it since. I would fear Mike Pence. And he, if not to, if he hears and he does not respond, would I say clear and would I say, please get them onto paper, one name in sequence, former Vice President Pence. They have, remote predicate acts methods, the branches of government individually, but then further grouped and together. And these are timed collusions with their kids, with overt criminal enterprise and extended family, the ages, overt criminal enterprises and private ones. The witness protection program is also involved. Foreign and domestic military, the difference between the North and the South. There are proofs that the North and the South are still self-valued, both the way they were extorted by our founders, exactly the way the breaching method kept it, and both the way they were counter-extorted by them. In other words, the breaching method set everything up to make everyone need to be a unity or an independent, to change things. And it set it up so who's going to do that would see it coming. And it would involve lock it down too. It would lock everything down. Since semi-ancient times, this is what it's doing. While everyone's paying attention to all those real things additional to blame it on, everyone's missing what was fluent and inseparable from each person, thing, act. Uses of it consciously. How do you think they used everyone remotely from abroad, from other countries, with colonization? They didn't even have planes and cars. And they used everyone remotely. This breaching method that made everyone hurt each other from abroad, including as themselves. They made everyone rely on unity. Will you be with me? Then they break down. What are they fighting about? They put me in fake conversations about my family and about legal cases. 3 times at Hartford Hospital, they used wire crime acts and methods, and they hid what only the first time I had yelled. Forced, we're going to call the police without telling them why. And then I didn't even talk to them. And then they had to cover that up by lying about the other 2 times they forced me in for a mental evaluation. These are the same names and families who have roles with predicate acts on my street since I was a kid from other areas and people associated with them. A Rick C.M. Faglione has roles with Hartford Hospital, with the Leahy family and families tied to them who put fake things in databases about kids and their family members. And they have drugs and medicines crimes with the kids. They're going to create symptoms in the kids because of their uses of locations already. They have roles personally and professionally with prosecutors and judges with sick fake things, as sick natures too. They can't afford what is actually discerned to be recorded. They use their election locations, criminally foreign influence. They have probation officers involved with a bunch of murders that had time connections between them. And the names of the probation officer of a guy says he was against the law to say this. Guy said he was a probation officer of Mike Oliver. And how they communicate to each other, as one of the ones involved with judges and prosecutors with sequence shifts and planting evidences, remote uses of investigations, investigators have training in the difference between that at the locations next to Central Connecticut State University, with names from Wethersfield through time and connected to Wethersfield, associated with these names like O'Brien. An O'Brien family has the Rocky Hill Police Departments, Wethersfield Police Department, Hartford Police Departments involved with them wire crimes, acts, and methods, and with these Wethersfield police confessing the name Cololo. And they're lying about our motivations and when they're bringing up names. So they bring things before courts. They use it for torture, criminally foreign influence. Before the World Trade Center, that's a method of torture, no. So there's a quality of fact-sheeping nature that is what is being prevented. And with black and with the color black, sickly distinctly from the color white. And so, and it is more damaging sickly distinctly because to keep out how sickly non-distinctly. But the people trying to speak for white are not trying to speak about how sickly or black and black simultaneously, or either one are not speaking for it simultaneously. If you're having a conversation with someone who's trying to tell you to entertain themselves as or the people around them as a group, by black leaving out how nature speaking other, nature tells us not to leave out how black and white collusions with our voices of the law had collusions there. Tactically abridged, that means criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. and pretending otherwise that body was sensed, including if it was a majority. Black pupils. See how Native Americans are white. What's the difference? There's a video on this. The title says the video it has the slavery of white people too. I don't know if it says that or it says there was Irish people, but that's white, more white than. In other words, then we're having a group debate. See, like if you start thinking like that, or speaking like that, or entertaining that, that is tactical from your eyes aren't letting short words with convictions proper by black people. So the flag is supposed to be the republic for which it stands, and that stands abridged. So how do we deal with that? We deal with the Constitution's abridgments. How has that been screened by the breaching method? How could they get away with that in our faces? They were told since they were kids to address the amendments, leaving out how and why, leaving out the only increasing value of how and why our founders had to counter-restore our other founders, the other non-Native American founders, and how the Native Americans had to fight with each other, most importantly as fact human nature, to what to do. For the real cause is worse, and use is worse, and use singular worse, of criminal and seditious natures of fact human nature impositions upon themselves and upon their education, therefore their syntax, quality, aspects, and nature with themselves, and as humanity, ourselves, as humanity selves, as ourselves forced to be claimed, assigned a different identity of value, progression, value. Same thing they're doing and have done with the experts of each of the industries. They want to have debates about what is smart or what is not. They use that to measure and maintain, leave out what is sequentially recorded, what is valuable first, and what is simultaneous. Their uses of evidences, they go back and forth with all sides of cases, leaving out the value, in other words, leaving out the value of criminal foreign influences that had nothing to do with the names, but to hide behind them, but for exceptions. Don't forget, we have black people. We have the same color eyes, black pupils, while we have different color eyes. See, black pupils, whites of eyes, we have the same color eyes. See the other species bodies. There was an identity of hyper simultaneous that revealed why and how we have quality aspects in nature, just like the other species bodies do, even insects do. Talk nicely to a spider or a bug if it gets in your house or in your garage. If you want to get it out, try to get it to walk on the napkin. And try to approach it. Don't do this to kill it. Then let it go. But then try to approach it nicely to let it go. You know, I mean, if you don't, they're conscious, not just because they're going to be attacked. Their conscious nature is a word for identity needed to be discerned, just like the need to discern why and how we need more than one name for a verb. And what that shows us how and why all groupings are about the difference between simultaneous nature / hyper simultaneous nature, which is inside itself, as cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall / S, is inside the complete identity that is also making more of itself with the gases and with the water and its elements, also known as positives or negatives. Details individual finite grouped in together. Here, the means appear. They're hyper clear. The way. Many pray. Boxing to teach us things. The boxing, martial arts, and wrestling. It is easier to discern how they share an identity group. So we can discern the identity the sciences share. Let's all prepare. The first parts of the Quran and of the Old Testament, the people that counter these books and or the people that preserve them, and the difference of that, it is used, there are collusions against any individual, even if it's a majority, to make proper reception of what they say first. They say this is the only thing that matters. So you guys want to defend these books out of sequence and have debates about your motivations for it and your passions, descriptions, or those of the people you're debating with, and you leave out what it says. Only thing that is that matters right at the front. Tells people of the Quran too. I mean, tell people who believe in calling it Allah that they're obligated not to pray in a mosque for the slightest reason. The only thing they need to do to be a good Muslim is to be honest with use of the word Allah as a scientific value for the hyper simultaneous. So you guys make faith delusions. You pretend it's other. Then you cause people with delusions. You have to fake conversations with them to back it up. So they have the sense and sensibilities of the intelligence community as the ones who investigate too, of the religious spots, keeping them, helped and hurt at the same time to keep them collusions and pretending other with all the fake evidences where and how manifest, where and how all investigators, their campuses, and everyone around everyone, there's a difference between the nature of adjacents and conjunctions. See, there's a difference between the adjacent things and people adjacent to the Connecticut State Judicial Branch offices and conjunctions to it. There's a difference between things and people as conjunctions to the Connecticut State Judicial Branch offices. And that difference is used as roles with the names leading up every year, leading up to the World Trade Center attack and since involved with it. And the difference between when it was their motivations of the other people. And also the sequence shifts and building on connections made between campuses, which is, in other words, how we can discern this, our uses. In other words, how we're going to counter this. How we're going to discern the shared breaching method against every modern name. Sickly distinctly, but sickly non-distinctly. How we're going to get to the discernment of that. You have to follow mandated law. We have to be this nature, knowing that's what we're going to counter. That's what we're going to blame. Because there are a whole bunch of means to blame it. The suburbs from here, from America to Ukraine, were designed before our founders were born for the torture, extortion of themselves as leaders. Who's going to be a leader of a location, areas, and states and use fact-checking nature properly without them, fake? It's not. You think about it. They're going to force this, and/or the breaching method is too, and the difference of that is also used. So the blame, we have to have forgiveness for used by as the law, not for relative to the guilt. Their defenses of treatments of guilt were effectively used to measure and maintain their collusions, the identities of the law, with uses of other things other than themselves. Blamed for what our founders communicated us, blame the breaching method, the blame on the breaching method, the human fact-checking nature, torture, extortion, slavery method. We're going to deal with this. We're going to deal with how they got in the way so long with pretending to be able to speak for logic and reason, while they've been criminally foreign influence uses of words like research, per uses of all location /s, and per uses of the differences of every nature and age of campus, Also understand that, and how fire campuses and medical campuses are also involved with the breaching method leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and since. Whole bunch of people tied to our side's roles with it, who also had predicate acts roles with the buildings and homes and businesses next to Hartford Hospital, as ones involved with police departments with identity theft, fraud, slanders, like with the name Scalora, involved with people with Central Connecticut State University with Cuba, with foreign and domestic medical families, fabricating transcripts, criminally foreign influence uses of the military, etc. Tactically, the delusions wrong. Get them on paper. Get me off the faith conversations with the Leahy family. Get them on paper with the judges tied to them. Let's go. Let's go. Shouldn't have to beg. Get them on paper. Descriptions of my what I say clear, they lie about, and what I say unclear, they lie about. Let's go. They have behavior racketeering, worse than war crimes. Let's go. I'll try to heal their souls. Follow mandated law. If you branch the government, their uses of Facebook pages into branch still. Let's go. Enter campuses. Let's go. Let's get a response for the principal child abusers' confessions and for the threats and other natures of crimes and home break-ins that people associated with Joshua Julia had on and off the principal's child abusers' campus. And they're hiding their motivations with their kids. They have to hide extortion act, predicate acts roles. They have to hide, put fake motivations now, so they're pretending it was because of their kids, etc. Get them on paper and fix the fake news, fake conversations with me. There's a Roger Suzanne and a whole bunch of people all along Route 3 with little kids playing games here. Make sure he fixed the fake conversation. Abuser and others involved with identity. Now, let's go. Let's go. Weathersfield Police Chief Cintron. Let's go. Let's go. There's more people with the name Mike Levine. I never had a verbal conversation with Mike Levine in my life. He trying to pretend to know me with people that are planting evidences and roles with the campuses, same campuses, and leaders of the kids, and extend the difference of that. Let's go. Get them on paper. Follow mandated law. I asked you guys nice, $50,000. You have to be lie. You have to lie about what I typed, clear and unclear in there too, in my descriptions of my videos. That's why it's like that. So I'm warning you. If I was trying to hurt you, I'll hide that, because you're going to have to get on paper. You have to get on paper, one name and sequence, who disbelieves. And you don't let them pretend their motivations, because they've been doing this each year leading up to before the World Trade Center attack. I recorded means to demonstrate I caught courts and intelligence, foreign and domestic military with collusions. I West Hartford locations with New Britain Superior Court people involved with Connecticut District Court and with the Hartford courts and their family members and intimate ties as the people that were planting evidences, fake motivations, and collusions with people all along Route 175 and Route 3 involved, and conjunctions to that and adjacents being distinct, because that difference is exploited too. Ooh, fear means fear. Who disbelieves? Who disbelieves? Fix the fake news with me. Fix the fake motivations when that's torture method. They pretend it's personal, pretend we're attacking them. Watch them with the theory uses. Fear, fear.